I had better not see cost analysis on this video because I swear to God I will have a heart attack. Welcome back, everyone, to the greatest Honda content that the internet has to offer. Not really, because if it was, I'd feel really sorry for the rest of the world. But thank you for tuning in anyway. So, if you remember, if you've been following along with the channel for a while, I did a video kind of like this a little while ago. It's probably been over a year. So we went over how I am building a 1,000 horsepower K24. Click on the card and that will take you to that video so you can check that out. We're gonna go over those parts real quick, but today it's just this video, whatever it's titled, we're just doing a massive parts dump. I just wanna show you guys every single thing that I've got to go into the K24, because after the filming of this video, we're going to be putting the K24 together. So yeah, I'm pretty stoked. I'm really excited. I have been waiting on this day, this moment for a very long time. Again, if you've been following along with the channel, it's been a long time coming, and you know, it's taken a while, but I'm very proud of the parts that I've accumulated, and I wouldn't have done it any other way, and I don't think I could have done it any other way. So I just wanted the best parts I can get my hands on. So without any further ado, we're going to go over all the parts that I have to go into the K24. To kick things off, we're going to go over everything that's on the table here. So we've got fluids here. We have got the BR30. This is an oil made by the company Driven, and it's a break-in motor oil. It's a 5W30, protects bearings and journals, chemically seals piston rings. That's what you want to, that's really the thing that you want to look at. You can get Amsoil or Castrol or Valvoline or whatever. I just wanted to find something that was, one, affordable but not super cheap, but I wanted it to do its job well that's for. So I bought 2 cases of this. That's going to be enough for 3 break-in oil changes. So that's good. That's good. So I'm going to put that aside. Sticking with oils and stuff, this is Amsoil manual synchro mesh manual transmission fluid for the K20 Z1 Trans that we're going to be still keeping in the car for now. This is just supposed to be some really good transmission fluid. We haven't done anything internally, unless you count the detent springs from Hybrid Racing, but and the other springs that go on the shift selector, but like nothing to the gearing, nothing to the synchros, nothing like that. We haven't gone in and replaced anything. I want to go with like PPG stuff in the future. That's kind of like the go-to bulletproof parts that you'd go for in the Honda 5 and 6 speed transmissions. So, but for now, to keep my 165,000 mile transmission still kicking, we're gonna go with this stuff. I got 3 bottles of this plus the pump that you can buy from Amsoil. I got 3. It should only take 2, but you know, mistakes happen, so I just wanted that extra safety net on that. Just let's move on. Let's stick with the clutches. I'm going with the factory clutch. Now, I know what you're gonna say, so just hold your comments, but we're gonna go with an Exedi factory clutch. This kit came with a pressure plate, the clutch disc itself, a throw-up bearing, a pilot bushing, the installation tool, and a little bit of lube, all the stuff. The reason I'm going with this is because the car is not boosted yet. I have no idea how much power the K24 is gonna make. I'm hoping that it's gonna make pretty decent power. Maybe, you know, it's gonna make at least 200, I think, which is stock power, but a ton more torque. I'm hoping to see that torque curve a lot better than our original dyno numbers from the K20 Z1 that's still currently in the RSX. For now, until it's boosted, this is gonna do fine. This is the same exact clutch that's in the car currently, and I put that thing in about 7 years ago, and we've put a little over 60,000 miles on it. So I think this will be able to handle the extra torque. Plus, it's a new clutch. I did not want to do this build because I'm planning on getting a really nice twin disc eventually, but that's for when we're going to be boosting. That's going to be in the future. That's going to be, this is kind of like the end of an era. After we get the K24 built in A and in the car, that's going to be kind of the end for a while. And then I'm going to do the same thing as I did here. I will accumulate turbo parts. Including with those turbo parts is going to be a new twin disc. So for now, we're just going to run this. It's going to make the car still nice and streetable. It's not going to feel any different. It's probably going to be a little bit grippier than the one that's in there now, but I mean, it's just fresh material, fresh disc, everything, pressure plate, everything. And I am getting a stock flywheel, not my stock flywheel. Well, technically it's mine, but I'm getting a stock Type S flywheel resurfaced to put back in the car. So that way that's got fresh material that we're using on there too. Next thing we've got here, because I don't have one of these in the car currently, and I think honestly this is a super important thing, but this is an oil pressure gauge. This is an AEM X Series oil pressure gauge, and I've got it inside of, I can't remember if this is an AEM pod or not. I think it might be a glow shift pod. I can't remember. I think it is glow shift now that if my memory serves me, but I've got it in the pod and it looks really, really good. So I'm going to get this installed into the car before I crank up the K24 for the first time. So that way we know we are getting oil pressure, because that is going to be what kills this engine. I'm kind of nervous about that. I cannot lie about that, but based on all these parts that I'm about to throw on the table here, I think anyone would be, because you just don't want there to be any type of catastrophic failure. This will help us mitigate that, I hope. So got this ready to go in the car, so I'm going to be doing an install on that before, during, or after the K24 is put in, but the car will not be started without this hooked up. It may not be fully installed, but the car will not be started without that gauge pod hooked up. So next big thing on the table, and we're going to go ahead and cover this so I can move it off, but we have got the K20Z1 head off of Kyle's old engine. Kyle, again, thank you so much, dude, for selling me this. Past me, a younger me, is going to fill you in on everything that's in the head here. Hey guys, Brandon from the past here. Today's the day that we're taking the head to the machine shop, so I wanted to go ahead and show these parts because we'll likely never see them in this form again. So real quick, I'm literally about to walk out the door to the machine shop. So this is a video filmed in conjunction with one of the previous videos that you guys would have seen by now. If not, click on the card and you can see where we take this bad boy to the machine shop and we get to talk to John and everyone else. So this is the Farea valve train kit that I decided to go with. So these are, it literally says Acura RSX 2-liter intake valves. That's the part number F6074. It's not just the intake valve. So literally there's a difference on, there's a way to tell a difference, and I'm not going to open these up. I don't really want to, but yeah, here's a part number F1548P, and here's a F1546P. So one of these is an exhaust and one of these is an intake. That's really all there is to it. And I believe that's everything that's in the kit. Like this whole box is just all 16 of the valves. This literally is just the valves. This kit, which is very similar looking, but much, much heavier. So this kit is a KT4004. This says Acura K20 drag racing dual springs, and the spring part number is the S10100. So S10100 to make it easier. So in this kit, here's the itinerary sheet thing, or whatever you want to call it, the parts list of everything that I ordered. It's not just the springs, obviously. We've got we've got titanium retainers. You had an option between titanium and tool steel. I think tool steel technically it may be stronger. I mean, if you were to look at it like a Rockwell test of them or something like that, I think tool steel may be a tougher material. But I think in the grand scheme of things, the difference is minute and won't make any real difference at all. And these are titanium, and I went with them because they're titanium. They're super lightweight. Spring seats. I'm guessing these are actually just made of tool steel. So yeah, very cool. We've got the Farea VS1002 exhaust Viton valve stem seals, and then we also have the VS1003 intake valve stem seals, same kind. And then we have the K10034 7-degree valve locks. So these are supposed to be super good. Supposed to help keep everything locked down super tight, cause less issues. And here we have the actual dual beehive valve springs themselves. 105 pounds at 39 millimeters, 225 pounds at 29 millimeters. Much stiffer springs than factory. I don't know if they're titanium or not, but whether they are or aren't, my fast and furious spirit will sleep easy at night knowing that these are what is making my valves return to the top. So yeah, we'll be able to rev the absolute dog piss out of this engine. So with all that being said, future me is gonna take back over, and we're gonna finish showing you guys the rest of the parts that we've got to hopefully finish this build off. So yeah, a pretty trick set of gear that went into the head here. I'm really excited to use Firea. I thought about going with some different brands and everything, but Firea, I mean, their reputation is just, along with other brand names, I'm not saying that's the only reason I picked them, but I've always just kind of had a special place in my heart for Firea stuff, along with a lot of the other stuff that I'm going to be showing you. And when I think of Firea, I just think quality control, really nice parts, not gonna fail me. That's what I think of. So I was able to get this kit pretty good for a pretty good price, I think, and it included everything. So it took a lot of the guesswork out, and thank you to Shacklet for getting everything installed for me. I kind of wanted to be the one to install everything. I've got all the necessary tools and everything to do so, but since they were doing all the work to the head, they needed the valves and everything. They needed everything to make sure everything was going to be installed properly if they lapped the valves or for that 3-angle valve job. Aaron had to have all that stuff at the machine shop to get it done. So there was no point in disassembling it and then having me reassemble it for you guys. Honestly, I think assembling the head is a pretty simple process if you have the right little bolt-on tool like what I've got. So maybe in the future I'll get to finally use that thing, but it wasn't super expensive, the tool I mean. And so, like, yeah, one day I might be able to use it, but we'll go through a tutorial of that one day. But it's really not hard, and there's a ton of really good videos from some really knowledgeable fellas out there that can show you how to get this done if you need it. So yeah, so we're gonna move on, but that's the head. I'm gonna run stock cams for now, but that's gonna change probably pretty quick. So yeah, there's no real rhyme or reason to the rest of these parts as far as like how they're categorized. It's going to be top of the engine, bottom of the engine. I'm not going to be going in like a sequential order as far as how the engine's going to be built. I'm just, at this point, it's just random parts. So you guys remember, hopefully, I got this Honda valve cover. It doesn't say Honda Motor Company Limited Incorporated, you know, all the other crap it would say. It just says Honda. So the reason I'm showing you this, like, there's nothing special about it, but I am going to be painting it along with the timing cover. So this is a K24 timing cover, and it's got a bunch of splooge on it still, but we're going to get all that Honda bond cleaned up real good, and we're going to get this thing sanded and maybe sandblasted, but we're going to paint it as well. And so I just wanted to show you guys this stuff, so that way whenever you see it being put on the car, like, this is what I'm using. So I've got like 3 or 4 valve covers to choose from, but this is my favorite by far, and it's going to look super good once it's painted and everything, and I'm really excited about that. The next thing is I've got this steel K24 oil pan that's going to be going on the car. Steel is really good. It doesn't break whenever you bottom out or hit something. It'll still hopefully keep oil inside of it. It's better for welding, so if we drill some oil return stuff on the back, it'll fit really well. And so I'm really excited to be using this on the car. That guy's a f***ing idiot. Okay, I mean, I knew that was gonna happen, but I didn't expect it to be so harsh. So yeah, I mean, it was a joke. I mean, why would I put this on my car? It's rusty, it's full of dirt and stuff, but I mean, yeah, okay, anyway, Moroso oil pan. Yes, a Moroso oil pan. Yeah, I've always wanted a Moroso oil pan, just like with Firea. It's just one of those names where it's just like, it just screams performance whenever you think of it. So I'm really excited to have that extra 2 quarts of capacity. So that's going to help with break-in and just keeping a nice fresh flow of oil in there. And so yeah, I'm really stoked about that. Moving on, we have got some hybrid racing goodies. These are not the only hybrid racing goodies we have today, but I'm going to show you these. These are, I think, the oil coolant line. So these hoses, they go from the water pump to the back of the engine where it goes through the oil cooler and then it gets pushed back into the engine block itself. So I got these from Hybrid. It comes with all the clamps we need, and I didn't want to use factory ones. I think these are going to look really, really sick on the car, and I think it's going to, you know, help just keep everything nice and clean. Keeping with that, we have got brand new Hybrid Racing radiator hoses. So I'm keeping the stock radiator for now. I'm looking at different options in the future, but you know, don't want to reuse those old hoses. There's nothing wrong with them, but again, you know, Hybrid Racing. So keep the car running nice and cool for years and years to come. And keeping on track with that, we're going to be running a brand new Mishimoto thermostat. It was about the same price as the factory Honda unit, but it will activate, it will open up 10 degrees Celsius cooler than the factory unit will. So that will also help keep the car running nice and cool. Moving on to the first box. A lot of this stuff a bunch of you have seen before. So we've got the 4-piston racing ported Type S oil pump that we're going to be putting in. That's crucial. We've got ACL race bearings. These have been specifically calculated and measured to fit in the block with our crank that's been turned. So that's good. Right here to help us install the pistons and rings and rods and everything just nicely is this Wiseco piston ring compressor. This is going to help us get that stuff installed no problem. We've got some literature here. That's just for my own sake. And we do have the baffle here with all of the bolts and whatnot. We also have some extra front case seals and a few other things in here, but really that's the basis of everything that's in here. So you have to use the Type S oil pan baffle if you're going to be using the pump. So just keep that in mind. Our next box, again, you guys have seen all this stuff before, but these are my Manley Turbo Tough I-beam rods with 625 plus rod bolts. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I did spend a lot of money on rod bolts. Yeah, I really did. So here they are. This is the part number that you need if you're going to be doing this. It's Manley 42321-4 ARP custom age 625 plus rod bolts. So I ordered those. They are very expensive. But they have got an extremely high tensile strength. I was told that these are overkill even for my application. You don't necessarily have to have these, but it's just another one of those things that's super peace of mind. Going along with that, at the top here, we've got our Wiseco forged piston, you know, with its piston rings and everything. These are already installed, but I will be going over how to install them. I've got one that is set aside just for you guys. So that's going to be in a future video once we're putting the K24 together. And I've also got a turbo wrist pin, and it is a S734. I got these from Summit, I believe. Super important for boost. You may be asking yourself, you know, isn't all these, you know, really heavy parts, heavy duty parts going to be a lot of weight on the rotating assembly? Yeah, it is. So this is not going to be a super quick spinning, naturally aspirated engine. So that's one of those things where I'm concerned about how much horsepower it's going to make while it's NA. But once we do throw a big old turbo on it, we're not going to have any problems, I hope. Just so you're in the know, the rings have been properly gapped for my boost numbers that I've been wanting to achieve. So we're on to our third and final box here. This box has a little bit of everything in it. Okay, so this is the last of everything. Everything that's sitting on this table right now, God, if I just had to ballpark guess it, this is probably $2,000 to $3,000 worth of parts. Okay, so we're gonna go over all the Honda stuff first, and then we're gonna move on to the fancy schmancy stuff. First things first is, like, this was really cool. When I found this, I was super duper happy. So real quick, what this is that this is a TSX K24 crank position sensor. You have to use this if you swap a K24 into an RSX. Well, they're virtually the same as the RSX ones, but the pinouts are different. But I found this, it's not the sensor I want to show you, it's this trick little conversion harness. Like somebody, I bought this on eBay. If I remember to put a link for it in the description, I will, but I think you can still find these pretty easily. But some dude, I think in New York or New Jersey, just made a whole bunch of these, and this is just a conversion harness, so you don't have to de-pin anything. I've got tools to de-pin things, but if I ever have to swap the K20 into the car, like for an event, or if something happens, or if I'm doing some work or something, this is one of those things where it's just like, I can just unplug this, my entire RSX harness stays the same, and we can go right back to a K20, no problem, no weird stuff, throw a tune in the K Pro, and that's it, done. So that's pretty cool. These are just cam position sensors. They're not new. I believe these came out of the head, that head. I don't think there's anything wrong with them, so we're going to roll with them. If not, I have spares, obviously. Probably broken now. Chain case seal, VTEC solenoid seal, dowel pin that mates the head to the block. There's 2 of these. I got 4 of these. These are spark plug tube seals for the valve cover, a cam lock tool that goes in the head whenever you're installing the timing chain, left and right timing chain guides. We got the bolts for each, brand new oil squirter bolts, brand new oil pump chain, brand new oil squirters. If you remember, click on the card. I made a whole video about oil squirter block off plugs that you can buy from Golden Eagle. I ended up taking those out of the block because my plans have changed. I'm going to be doing, more. I'm hoping to eventually go for a more track-oriented use on the car. So, yeah, putting in brand new squirters and bolts because that's how I roll. Upper guide for the cams, oil pump chain tensioner, brand new. All of these parts are brand new. Well, most of them, I can't say that, but everything I'm showing you here in the packaging is all brand new parts. Valve cover gasket, tube seal, tube seal, tube seal. Thermostat case seal and thermostat seal. It's a split housing. Rear main seal, another front main seal, axle seal for the passenger side, and an axle seal for the driver's side. My axle seals are not leaking, but I have them. Brand new Type S water pump. You have to have the Type S water pump for the oil cooler because the TSX pump does not have provisions for the oil cooler. So you have to have a Type S water pump and a Type S housing, which this is on the K24, and it has the fittings that go to the back of the block for our hybrid racing hoses. Exhaust manifold gasket and a brand new K24 head gasket. The K24 from the factory is an 87 millimeter piston size, but this actually measures out to 87.5 millimeters, so these will work with my block since I did bore it out. Last but not least, as far as the Honda stuff is concerned, a K24 dipstick. And the reason I'm going to be using the K24 dipstick for the first kind of startups and break-in periods is because the hybrid racing dipstick that I have is made of metal and it gets really, really hot, and I just want to be able to check oil really quickly. The very last Honda part that I wanted to show you guys, that you've already seen this before, but this is the K24 crankshaft. It has been measured, balanced, and turned. So everything is in spec and copacetic, and the bearings are going to fit perfect with it, and the rods are measured perfect with it, and everything should be just in harmonious, beautiful, power-making awesomeness. So hopefully all that will happen. But I'm going to put this down now because, I mean, a good workout, but it's a little heavy because it's forged. Pretty sure non-forged ones are heavy too, but it sounds cool when you say it like that. And speaking of the crankshaft being balanced, let's talk about the harmonic balancer. This is a fluid damper harmonic balancer made for K20, K24 applications, and they packaged this thing so well. I had a time getting it even to the point to where I could see it. So this is my fluid damper, made in the USA harmonic balancer, and it is rated, it is FSI, which is the specification that it has to meet, and it's 18.1. And so a lot of people go with ATI super dampers, and those are great dampers. The turning point, what swayed me to the fluid dampener was the fact that the rating is etched into the metal itself. A little backstory, I won't dwell on it, but isn't it pretty? It's beautiful. But the reason that I did was because I read on the forums, and this may not even be true anymore, but I read on the forums that if you go to the track and your damper isn't up to spec, depending on the type of racing you're going to be doing, depending on the track, depending on a lot of things, a lot of factors. If your dampener's not in spec, then you can't race. Well, some dude was tracking his K-swap something, or RSX or Civic or whatever, and the sticker on the ATI Super Dampener had wore off, so they wouldn't let him pass tech inspection. So yeah, and so in order, and again, that along the same lines, that on that same forum, for him to get a new sticker, ATI wouldn't just send him a new sticker. They had to have him send in the damper, and they had to retest it and rebalance it and make sure everything was good to go on it. So yeah, I understand that, but at the same time, I like how the way that Fluid Dampener etches in their specification rating, and it's just set. And so it just seemed more simplistic, and I think it's going to work well for our project. Some more stuff from ARP. We've got some ARP pressure plate bolts. Now, these are actually for a B series, but I'm going to use them because every other bolt I'm using is ARP, so why go back to factory? Going along with that, I ordered some flywheel bolts, some ARP flywheel bolts from 4Piston Racing. Thank you guys. Thank you so much at 4Piston, Luke, all of them, thank you. And I also got the Diamond Lock ring, which is supposed to help mitigate like high RPM, high horsepower vibrations that inevitably will occur. And this, you put this between your crank, the back of the flywheel and the crank, and this will help stop those vibrations from causing any, I don't want to say friction welding, but I think that's kind of what it's for. It keeps the surfaces separated because they can vibrate and heat up to the point to where it can cause some damage. And this will stop that. So that's really cool. And these bolts are super duper cool, and they fit all K series. I think they even fit S2000s. I'm not totally sure on that, but I think they do. And it comes in this really cool like revolver box and everything. Like, you know, good on you, 4Piston. I love you guys. Speaking of 4Piston, you remember those 625 plus rod bolts that I got? Well, 4Piston recently, very recent, real recent, came out with these K20, K24, ARP 625 head studs. So, yeah, expensive, very expensive. So it comes with all of them, all those. Comes with some assembly lube, some instructions, washers and nuts. Now, you may be asking yourself, are those washers and nuts the same as like the ARP 2000, like or the 8740 material? Don't ask me that. I don't know. They look like it, but I don't know. Because I actually bought a set of these way back in the day, click on the card, when I went to Summit Racing. Actually, so way back in the day, we went to Summit Racing, and I bought these to go with the head studs that came with my K24 when I bought it from Jason. And so, yeah, I got these for that. And so I still have those head studs. And so I've got washers and bolts that, you know, fit them, and I can use these on another K20 or something for in the future if I want to do like an NA build, because these will be more than suitable for that. But these feel a little heavier than these. Just keep. I mean, I know I got the washers here too, but they feel a little bit heavier duty, so I will say that. But it's more insurance. There's no other justification for it. It's just they're better. And so a lot of you know that they have L19 studs too. Those are susceptible to hydrogen contamination, I think is the words. And so basically, like, you can't touch them with your skin. They're like light bulbs. Like, you can't touch them with your bare hands, and you can't let them get wet. Like, you can't. But it's inevitable. They will inevitably get moisture on them, like being right there at the combustion chamber. Like it will, and that's the whole reason that these exist for the K20, K24 for really, really high horsepower builds. So I really appreciate the fact that these exist, and they came out literally. I mean, they haven't even been out like 6 months, I don't think. I'm not totally sure on that, but it feels like about that much. So I got those, and yeah, that's what I'm going to be using. Staying with 4Piston for another minute, to go along with my fluid dampener, I got a 4Piston ARP harmonic balancer bolt, because why not? I got a 4Piston Racing timing chain cover. I got a 4Piston Racing, I don't even know what this is. I got this 4-piston racing head filter housing cover for that bolts to the front of the head, where the VTC solenoid and the actuator are, and this helps filtrate the oil in the head, and because why not? So that's all the 4-piston stuff that I've got here on the table. I think I've got some more 4-piston stuff that I either showed earlier or what have you. But all the Ferrea gear came from 4-piston as well. So yeah, thank you guys so much for that. Moving on to Drag Cartel, we got a upgraded timing set, or a gear set rather. So here it's sealed in the package, so I'm not going to open it, but this is a modified crank gear that Drag Cartel buys from Honda, and then they modify it to work with a better keyway or dowel pin, however you want to, whatever you call it in your neck of the woods. And so they give you an extended keyway, or they modify the keyway, and then they modify the crank gear itself, so that way instead of it having a notch on it and it sliding into the keyway slot, it is milled out to where the keyway goes all the way through, because those little pins have been known to snap off in high horsepower applications, or with cams with high lift and things of that nature. So I've got that, just, you know, extra safety, extra peace of mind, I hope. Also got the Drag Cartel lower timing guide. You know, this is not like a factory Honda thing that you upgrade. This is like a, you know, pretty slick little deal that goes over the top of oil chain guide, one of the little oil chain guides. So that's pretty slick, and this also assists with cams. So if you guys are wondering what cams I'm thinking about going with, these should be some pretty big hints here. Also got a heavy duty K24 timing chain. These are supposed to be, you know, anti-stretch, you know, or at least they won't stretch as soon as the factory chain. The factory chains are great, they're fine, but I'm hoping that this will help just produce more longevity. As with all these performance parts, I hope I do get longevity out of this block, so this should help with that as well. Next, we've got a hybrid racing intake manifold gasket. This is a thermal gasket, so this should mate up right well between the RBC and my brand new cylinder head, so that's pretty cool. And lastly but last, from Hybrid Racing, I bought this at the last year's July Import Alliance meet from the Hybrid Racing booth. Thank you guys so much at Hybrid Racing. I love your stuff. It's fantastic. I got the Hybrid Racing timing chain tensioner. This tensioner is a double ratcheting tensioner. It's been highly reviewed and just praised by a lot of people. I'm really hoping that this thing will just keep the slack out of my chain and keep it from jumping time. I've got pretty big confidence in this thing though, and I'm excited to install it onto the car. So thank you, Hybrid Racing. And by the way, just so this is out there, I bought all of this stuff. I paid money, my hard-earned money, for all of these things. Not a single damn thing I just showed you was given to me. Just so you are aware, I am not sponsored by anybody that I just mentioned. So if you're feeling biased, or you think that, just to mitigate that, if you think I'm biased because I was given something, I'm not. I'm biased because I spent money on it. So I'm not biased. If you're looking for a cheaper option, I'll just go ahead and tell you, get an Inline Pro. Those are, you know, also highly reviewed and really good tensioners. And so I've heard, you know, hearsay about skunk too. So, you know, just so keep that in mind. If you're looking for a tensioner that's going to get the job done, just get an Inline Pro. If you want to get a little bit above and beyond, that's why I went with the Hybrid Racing. So thank you guys again. If someone did want to sponsor my build, I would praise you probably a little bit more than the competition. And it's not that I want a handout. I've come this far without it. I'm just saying, it would be nice. So I have officially showed you guys everything that I have bought for this car, except for this. This part from K-Tuned is extremely important to me and for the build itself. It's not that special looking at it, but this is a K24 passenger side post mount. It's engine mount. It's basically, it's what connects the engine mount to the engine. This screws into the timing cover. This is the very first part I ever bought to do a K24 swap into the RSX. I bought this bracket in 2016. In the fall of 2016, I bought this. I bought this before I left O'Reilly's. I bought this before me and my wife got married. I bought this before I had a K24. I bought this before anything. I had the RSX. I had just got the 05 RSX, and I've always thought about doing a K24 swap, even when I had my old silver RSX that you guys never really saw. But when I got my 05, I was like, and I found out I had low compression. You know, this was either before or right before it or right after it. I was like, you know, even before then, I thought to myself, you know, I want to put a K24 in an RSX one day. And you guys know this project blew up out of the water unbelievably. And so I'm just one guy. I wasn't making a lot of money back in the day. I'm probably still not making a whole lot of money today. You know, it just depends on your point of view, I suppose. But this was just the first part, and it holds a special place in my heart. And I really cannot wait to install this on my brand new, freshly built K24. And it's just, I get to this part and I'm at a loss for words. I've been talking fine this entire time. I mean, this might seem really dumb, and I get that. I don't really like seeing, like, you know, emotional stuff on YouTube either, but it's just, if you understand, you understand. It's just one of those things where it's like, you know, where you began a project and wanted to begin one and push it forward, and it went above and beyond anything that you could ever imagine. Because this part represents my thoughts at the time. I thought I was going to buy a K24 from LKQ or off Facebook or off Craigslist or something and slap it into the car, maybe do a head swap and call it good. Boost may have came later, but it was going to come at a much significant less cost, because I wasn't going to shoot for 1,000 horsepower or 30 or 40 pounds of boost. I was going to shoot for like 400, 300, 350, 400 horsepower, nothing crazy, just a really, really cool streetable RSX that could whoop up on V8 cars and fast cars and maybe even some motorcycles. But that's it. That is it. So the very first part I bought, and it's the last part that I wanted to show you guys. So let's put this thing together. I've been kind of excited and a little nervous, honestly, about making this one. I do not. What's up?
What?
I'm making a video.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
You didn't tell me.
Well, I didn't tell you because I was going to try to just knock it out real quick before anyone noticed I was gone.